Greetings. So today in this video, what I'm going to go over is some tips and techniques on how to stop ruminating over the narcissist. A lot of times when you get out of these relationships, or even when you're still in them, you might find yourself ruminating or perseverating, thinking, stuck in a thought loop all about the narcissist. And part of the reason for this is because in the context of the relationship, you were slowly and methodically being erased. Your feelings, wants, needs, desires, and thoughts were being completely invalidated, right? And so you were slowly being erased. Gaslighting was a huge part of that. I'm going to read the definition for gaslighting. It is a form of psychological manipulation in which a person or group covertly sows seeds of doubt in an targeted individual or group, making them question their own memory, perception, or judgment. Other definitions are basically gaslighting is making the recipient question their own sanity, their own reality. They tell you, what you saw, you didn't hear, what you think you saw, you didn't see, what you think you heard, you didn't hear. That's not happening. They invalidate your perception and reality. And this is very, very difficult for recipients because normal people will actually question and be like, oh, well, maybe I did misunderstand this person, or maybe I did get it wrong. Maybe my memory is faulty. Normal people will actually question because, we don't think we're always right. And we may question ourselves. That's healthy. But when you're dealing with a gaslighter, you're being told that your reality is not your reality. What you think is happening isn't happening. This is real common with, they'll be cheating. Quite often there could be infidelity, and they tell you that you're absurd for thinking that, or, of course they would never cheat. Of course that's far beneath them. They're a person of integrity. They would never do such a thing, right? So you could be being fed this storyline of duplicity, and you believe them, right? Because you want to believe people, and they're very convincing, and you could find some evidence, and then they will tell you that your evidence is not real, and that's not what happened, and I wasn't talking to that person on the phone, or I didn't, whatever. What I'm talking about. If you've been in one of these situations, you know what gaslighting is. But so you've been gaslit, you've been taught that you've been completely invalidated. Your feelings don't matter. What you want doesn't matter. Your wants, needs, desires, they do not matter. There's a bathroom under construction for 9 years. You want it finished. That doesn't matter, because it's what you want is doesn't matter. You're being told that, in very subtle ways, especially with the covert narcissist or the sociopath, that what you want just is irrelevant. You are a non-entity. They're slowly absorbing you, right? You're basically becoming the shell of the person that you once were. So when this happens, survivors will often start to doubt themselves. They will start to question their own reality, their own perception, their own memory. And what can happen is, especially if you have codependent traits, which is a trauma response to your childhood trauma, you start to think that you no longer matter. Your life, if you're with a narcissist, they groom you to get you for your life to revolve around their every need, their desires, their emotions. They matter. Their emotions matter. Their feelings matter. All of their stuff matters, but you just don't. So you become this little, basically sycophant. And so part of the way to get out of these ruminations and to get out of the perseverations is you've got to replace it with something else. And the thing to replace it with is radical self-care, self-focus. I don't mean in a self-centered way. And if you're a codependent, you probably self-centeredness, it's your issue is probably that you're other focused way too much, and you need to, or it would be beneficial for you to start self-focusing. Learn to do self-care. Learn to self-validate. Return back to you. Find out who you were before you ever met this person, or, find the new you, the true you. What matters to you? What are your core core values? What are your feelings? What are your needs? What are your desires? Because on some level, you were erased in this relationship. And probably when you were a little kid, you probably had some neglect or some abuse or some narcissistic or addicted or abandoning parent. So that erasing began when you were a little kid. And so then you met the narcissist and they just, basically did the same thing. So it's all about regaining your whole sense of self. Validate yourself, become whole, and become complete. You no longer let another person devalue you or erase you or invalidate your reality, your experience. You no longer let somebody tell you what reality is. You figure out what the truth is. And of course, reality testing is very, very important if you're in one of these relationships. Like, one thing that is very helpful is you can write down a list of everything they actually did. Not what they say, not what their lying words say, not what their lies of omission say, a list of what they actually did. Did this person cheat on you? Did they lie to you? Did they gaslight you? Did they manipulate you? Did they invalidate your feelings? Did they, write down the list, what they did, right? Did they have a smear campaign? Did they do these things? And then read that list, because that list is going to tell you the truth. That's reality, not the fantasy in your head of, oh, this was my soulmate. They were so amazing because, the mask that they presented was so good. Forget the mask. That's a fake card. That is a paper mache entity. That is not a real person. Write down the list of what they actually did. Okay. And that is your reality, and refer to that list. Look at the list instead of the fantasy that you have going on in your head. And then make a decision that you're no longer going to let another human being erase you. No way. And if you're codependent, you may be used to subjugating yourself to others. You may think that the price to pay to be in a relationship is the subjugation of your wants, needs, desires, and autonomy. You might doubt yourself, you might doubt your own worth. And of course, when you do that, when you grew up like that, you are going to attract, or you might attract, narcissists who tell you that their feelings, their needs, their wants, what they want matters and what you want doesn't. So again, that idea that you need to subjugate yourself to others, this is your childhood trauma speaking. This is your, inaccurate programming. This is the family of origin that you grew up with, abuse, neglect, psychological, emotional, physical, verbal abuse or neglect. Or sexual abuse. So, this is your programming telling you that you have to subjugate yourselves in order to get crumbs of affection or love. And this is simply not true, my dears. It's just not. You have the right to be happy. You have the right to seek your own happiness. And you have the right to run, walk, or get away from people that are toxic or abusive in any way. And again, as a codependent, we may have a very hard time being in touch with our actual feelings, right? So we sometimes confuse our thinking for feelings. And, codependents are not just codependents. It could be anyone who's experienced trauma. You might not even be a codependent, but you might be struggling with a ruminating brain, perseverating brain, especially when you're getting out of these relationships, with these toxic relationships, right? And so your go-to might be thinking. And you might even think that that's feeling, but that's not. So one thing that I'm going to use a personal example that my trauma therapist helped me to work through. And it was like, okay, when I would get an emotional flashback, and I would have this, this yucky feeling inside of me, what I would do is I would start to think, right? And my thinking would be like, that guy's a narcissist with a sex addiction and blah, 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 blah. And I would go down this list of like ruminating, thinking, researching, right? Sure, you guys can relate. A lot of times we're on these forums, we're watching these videos, we're reading the books, but that's thinking, right? And she taught me to get in touch with what I'm actually feeling instead of going to ruminating, thinking. What she taught me was this really great sort of exercise. It's called RAIN, and I've talked about it before, but like, emotional flashback comes. You feel this flood of anger or sadness or, whatever it is that you're feeling, and you're not totally sure, but you feel bad. So instead of ruminating, you can say to yourself, okay, you can recognize, I am in an emotional flashback right now. I have been triggered. I'm in a triggered state. And when you're in a triggered state, your immune system, your whole regulatory system becomes dysregulated. So you're dysregulated, and you're all those trauma responses are starting to come up: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So what you can do is you can recognize, oh, right now I am in a triggered state, right? Recognize it. And acknowledge, accept and acknowledge. Okay, I accept that I'm in a triggered state. I accept that I'm having an emotional flashback right now. I accept that I'm feeling some feelings right now. I'm not totally sure what they are, but I'm going to get to them. So R, recognize. A, acknowledge and accept. I, investigate. What am I feeling? And so this is really important, I think, for you to get into your body. So take, you can close your eyes. You can take a deep breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out, and then focus on your body and see where in your body are you feeling a feeling. And for me, a lot of times it's in my stomach, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling something in my stomach. What is it? Well, it's anger. Okay. Well, what's beneath the anger? Anger is almost always that sort of rudimentary. It's like the threshold emotion, but behind anger, there's something else. Like, what is behind the anger? Okay. I'm feeling really hurt right now because, I found, this person was cheating on me and lying to me and gaslighting, and it just, I feeling really hurt. And, get in touch with the truth of what you're feeling. Like, oh, this person invalidated my feelings and told me that my feelings don't matter. Their feelings matter, but mine just are irrelevant, because I asked them, what did you think about what I said? And they said, oh, I didn't even think about it. I can't even remember what you said. So again, like invalidating your feelings, right? So investigate. So I'm really hurt. Why am I hurt? Well, because I feel very abandoned. I feel like this person, I put all this effort and energy into this relationship and it was not reciprocated. There was no reciprocity. And I feel that I was, taken advantage of. I was used. I was misused. I was mistreated. I was abused, like get into touch. And it feels bad and it makes me feel sad. And I'm really actually just really sad. And I'm really feeling, a lot of abandonment, anxiety, and then my brain goes to this place of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And then, what's happening is oftentimes like that when you're in that triggered state, it's taking you back to, your childhood where you felt abandoned or unloved or neglected or unwanted, or that you just didn't matter, right? And so then nurture. How do we nurture? One thing we can do is we can, say to ourselves, I do a lot of like imagining my inner child or my little baby girl, the little girl that was abandoned, abused, and neglected. And I look at her in my mind's eye and I just tell her, I say, honey, I got you. I will protect you. I'm going to take care of you. I love you. You're safe. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of love, and I'm going to care for you, and I'm going to love you, and I'm here for you. And I imagine myself giving that little girl a hug, like just loving her and saying, I'm going to protect you, honey. I got you. So I don't know if that's one way to do it. Other ways to nurture, you can take 10 deep breaths in. You can breathe in, out through the mouth, in through the nose. And I don't remember the trauma therapist that talked about this, but I read a book, or it was one of the courses I took, that said that if your body is in a regulated state, and if you have calmed down your nervous system, you cannot be in a trauma trigger at the same time that your body is in homeostasis and a calm state. So our job is to bring our bodies into a calm state. So you bring your body into a calm state and the mind will follow. And I understand that when you're in a triggered state, this is very difficult to do. But I think the first thing you can do, if you can just recognize that you're in a triggered state. Do the acronym RAIN, or even before you start the R, before you start the recognize, as soon as you feel your body in this triggered state, take 10 deep breaths, right? In, out, in, out. Take 10 deep breaths. And you can even tell with my voice, like I've calmed myself down. I'm calming down my autonomic nervous system. Calm yourself down, and then you can go through the RAIN: recognize, acknowledge and accept, investigate, and then nurture. And the nurture can be, you can go take a very cold shower, very couple of minutes in cold water. It will completely calm down your nervous system. You can take a hot shower after if you wish. You can go, sometimes I go sit in my hot tub. I immerse myself in water. You can go for a jog. You can put on a guided meditation. You can take some really good deep breaths. You can do downward facing dog yoga pose, like anything you can do to sort of calm down your nervous system. And then recognize, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? And you can, recognize that a lot of times when you're in emotional flashback, yes, you've been triggered by current events, but really what it's doing is it's taking you back to that little kid who was traumatized and went into the triggered state of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So I hope this is helpful for you guys, but ruminations about the narcissist are very common, but it's very, very important that you calm down your body and your brain will follow. It's not that you can fix the brain and your body's going to follow. You've got to learn how to calm down your autonomic nervous system. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day and you're thriving and practicing radical self-care.